The woods behind the house. The smell of burnt toast hung heavy in the air, a familiar morning scent in the Tanner household. Ben scraped the blackened edges off a slice while Lily hummed, meticulously arranging blueberries on her yogurt. "Big day today, huh?" Ben asked, forcing a cheerfulness he didn't quite feel. Lily nodded, her bright eyes sparkling. "Mrs. Peterson said we're starting on Impressionism. I want to paint like Monet." She puffed out her cheeks, imitating the roundness of a water lily. Ben chuckled. "Well, just try not to paint the kitchen while you're at it." He glanced at the clock. "Gotta run. You remember to lock up." "Always," Lily chirped, already lost in the swirl of blue and white in her yogurt bowl. The bell above the door of Tanner's hardware jingled as Ben walked in. The scent of sawdust and oil filled his lungs, another familiar comfort. He plastered on a smile for Mr. Abernathy, the store owner, who was already sorting screws behind the counter. "Morning, Ben. Slow start today, I'm afraid." Ben nodded, knowing slow starts were becoming the norm. He headed to the back office, a cramped space cluttered with invoices and receipts. He sat heavily in the squeaky chair and opened the stack of bills. Electricity, mortgage, Lily's art supplies, each one felt like a stone added to the weight on his chest. He shuffled them, trying to prioritize, but the numbers swam before his eyes. The hardware store salary barely covered their basic needs, and every month was a tightrope walk. He rubbed his tired eyes, a knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach. He hated this part of the day. Later, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the yard as Ben and Lily prepared for their hike. Lily bounced with energy, her backpack already packed with trail mix and a well-worn copy of Alice in Wonderland. Ben carefully checked their water bottles and stuffed a first aid kit into his own pack. "Ready, Papa Bear?" Lily asked, grinning. Ben ruffled her hair. "Always." The woods behind their house were their sanctuary. A tangle of oak and maple, crisscrossed with winding trails, it was a place where the worries of the world seemed to fade away. The air was thick with the scent of pine needles and damp earth. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, dappling the forest floor in shifting patterns. Lily skipped ahead, her laughter echoing through the trees. Ben followed at a slower pace, his gaze scanning the path, always watchful. He knew these woods like the back of his hand, every twist and turn, every hidden hollow. He'd explored them as a kid, and now they were a shared space of solace with his daughter. He pointed out a cardinal perched on a branch, its red plumage a vibrant splash of color against the green. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, the only sounds the rustling of leaves and the chirping of crickets. As they ventured deeper, the woods grew darker, the trees closing in around them. Ben noticed Lily's pace had slowed. "Everything okay, sweetie?" he asked gently. Lily hesitated, then pointed to a narrow, overgrown path that branched off the main trail. "I saw something move over there," she whispered, her eyes wide. "Like a shadow. A bright red clue." The sunlight dripped through the canopy, dappling the forest floor in shifting patterns of gold. Lily hummed a made-up tune, her boots crunching softly on the fallen leaves. Ben followed close behind, his backpack a comforting weight on his shoulders. They'd been hiking for a couple of hours, the city noise fading with every step deeper into the woods. He watched Lily, her bright yellow raincoat a splash of color against the green and brown, and felt a familiar pang of guilt. He wished he could give her more weekends like this, more chances to escape the cramped apartment and breathe fresh air. "Dad, look," Lily called, her voice echoing slightly. She was pointing towards a thicket of thorny bushes. Ben pushed through the undergrowth, his hand automatically reaching out to protect Lily. "What is it, sweetheart?" Snagged on a bare branch, a flash of crimson stood out against the muted tones of the forest. It was a scarf, a long, silk one, the color vibrant and almost shockingly out of place. Lily reached out and gently pulled it free. The fabric felt smooth and cool against her skin. "Someone lost it," she said, her brow furrowed. Ben took the scarf, examining it carefully. It looked expensive, the kind you wouldn't just carelessly drop. "Maybe," he said, trying to keep his voice neutral. "Or maybe someone just didn't realize they'd lost it." Lily shook her head, her eyes wide and serious. "But what if they're lost too, Dad? What if they need help?" She clutched her own scarf tighter around her neck, a simple wool one Ben had knit for her last winter. The thought had already crossed Ben's mind, a cold knot tightening in his stomach. The air suddenly felt heavier, the cheerful birdsong a little less carefree. He scanned the surrounding woods, the shadows seeming deeper, more menacing. "We should report it," he said, his voice firm. "To the park rangers." Lily nodded, her gaze fixed on the dense trees. "Do you think they're okay?" Ben squeezed her hand. He wished he could offer reassurance, but he couldn't lie to her. "I don't know, Lilybug. But we'll do what we can to help." He glanced at his watch. The afternoon was getting away from them. He zipped the scarf into a pocket of his backpack. Come on. Let's head back. The sooner we tell someone, the better. They turned and started back down the trail, the silence broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant call of a crow. The woods, which had moments ago felt like a comforting escape, now held a palpable sense of unease. Ben couldn't shake the image of the bright red scarf, a silent plea for help hanging in the stillness of the forest. A cry for help. The path had narrowed, the trees crowding closer, their branches laced together like skeletal fingers. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the canopy, casting the trail in a perpetual twilight. Ben wiped sweat from his brow, the humid air clinging to him like a damp cloth. Lily skipped ahead, her bright yellow raincoat a splash of color against the somber green. Did you hear that, Dad? Lily stopped suddenly, tilting her head. Ben paused, listening. The only sounds were the rustling of leaves and the distant call of a bird. Hear what, sweetie? It was like a cry. Faint, though. Like someone far away. She pointed deeper into the woods, a direction that led away from the marked trail. That way, I think. He hesitated. They were already further in than he'd intended, and veering off the path was never a good idea. Especially not with Lily. But her brow was furrowed with concern, her eyes wide and earnest. Could be an animal, lilybug, he said, hoping she'd accept the explanation. Maybe. But what if it's not? What if someone's hurt? He sighed, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He knew that look on her face. He couldn't just ignore it. He also couldn't ignore the unsettling feeling in his gut. All right, let's just take a peek. But we stay close to the trail, okay? And we turn back at the first sign of trouble. Lily's face lit up. Okay, Dad. Promise. Ben took her hand, and they carefully stepped off the path, pushing through a curtain of ferns. The forest floor was uneven, covered in a thick layer of decaying leaves and fallen branches. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and pine. It was immediately darker, the sunlight almost completely blocked out by the dense foliage. Hello, Lily called out, her voice small and slightly wavering. Is anyone there? Silence. Only the crunching of their boots on the undergrowth broke the stillness. They continued deeper, Ben using his free hand to push aside low-hanging branches. The trees grew closer, their gnarled roots snaking across the ground like slumbering serpents. The air felt colder here, a damp chill that seeped into their bones. Then they heard it again. A faint, muffled sound. Definitely a cry. It was coming from further in, almost swallowed by the surrounding trees. Ben stopped, his heart pounding. Lily, maybe we should turn back. Lily squeezed his hand. But Dad, they need our help. Her lower lip trembled slightly, but her eyes were determined. He looked at her, at the unwavering conviction in her young face. He knew he couldn't leave. Not when there was even a chance someone was in trouble. Okay, he said, his voice barely a whisper. But we stay together. And if anything feels wrong, we leave. Understand? She nodded, her grip tightening on his hand. Understand. He took a deep breath and plunged further into the dense, unforgiving woods, Lily right behind him, the faint cry their only guide. Miss Eleanor in distress. The forest floor, usually a tapestry of muted greens and browns, swam before Lily's eyes. She stumbled, catching herself on a thick root. Dad, wait up. Ben stopped, his brow furrowed with concern. You okay, Lilybug? This trail's getting trickier. He reached for her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. A faint sound, like a whimper carried on the wind, drifted through the trees. Lily tilted her head, her artistic eye catching on a flicker of color deeper in the woods. Dad, did you hear that? Ben listened intently. There it was again, a weak, almost bird-like cry. Stay here, he instructed, though he knew she wouldn't. He pushed through a dense thicket of ferns, Lily close behind. They found her slumped against a moss-covered boulder. Miss Eleanor Ainsworth, her usually impeccable appearance undone. Her tailored hiking jacket was torn, her face pale and streaked with dirt. One ankle was grotesquely swollen. Miss Ainsworth. Ben knelt beside her. What happened? Eleanor winced, her voice strained. Twisted my ankle. Lost my way hours ago. My phone has no signal. Lily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Oh, no. Are you in a lot of pain? Enough, Eleanor admitted, her eyes filled with a surprising vulnerability. Ben carefully examined her ankle. Looks like a sprain, maybe a fracture. We need to immobilize it. He ran a hand through his hair, his Boy Scout training kicking in. Lily, stay with Miss Ainsworth. I'll be right back. He disappeared into the woods, returning moments later with strips of bark and sturdy vines. These will have to do, he said, his expression focused. He gently positioned the bark around Eleanor's ankle, using the vines to secure it. This might sting a bit, he warned, tightening the makeshift splint. Eleanor bit back a cry, her knuckles white as she gripped the rock. Thank you, she managed, her voice hoarse. I'm deeply grateful. Lily, ever observant, noticed the tremor in Eleanor's hands. She retrieved her own water bottle, offering it to the injured woman. Here, Miss Ainsworth. Drink some water. Eleanor accepted the bottle, her gaze softening as she looked at Lily. Thank you, dear. You're a very kind girl. She took a small sip, then another, visibly regaining some strength. Ben surveyed his handiwork. Okay, it's not perfect, but it should keep it stable. Can you put any weight on it? Eleanor cautiously attempted to stand, but a sharp intake of breath told them it was impossible. No. Absolutely not. Ben sighed. All right, I guess I'm carrying you out. He positioned himself in front of Eleanor. Lean on me. Lily, you take her other side. The forest, once a place of peaceful refuge, now felt vast and threatening. The shadows deepened as the sun began to dip below the trees. Each step was a struggle, but Ben pressed on, driven by a growing sense of responsibility for the woman whose life, in that moment, rested in his calloused hands. The long walk back. Easy now, Miss Ainsworth, Ben said, his arm a steady brace around her waist. Each step she took was a small victory against the pain etched on her face. The woods, so inviting earlier, now felt like a labyrinth of shadows and unseen obstacles. Thank you, Ben, she replied, her voice strained but firm. I appreciate your help. Lily skipped ahead a few paces, then turned, her brow furrowed with concern. Does it hurt a lot? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Miss Ainsworth managed a weak smile. It's uncomfortable, but we'll get there. The trail, which had seemed so easy on the way in, now felt treacherous. Rocks jutted out like grasping claws, and fallen branches lay hidden beneath a carpet of leaves. Ben focused on each step, guiding Miss Ainsworth around the worst of it, his own exhaustion a dull ache in his legs. Lily, ever observant, reached into her small backpack. I have juice, she announced, holding up a half-crushed juice box. It's strawberry. Miss Ainsworth hesitated, then accepted the offering with a grateful nod. Thank you, Lily. That's very kind of you. She sipped it slowly, her eyes closing for a moment as if savoring the simple sweetness. As they continued their slow progress, the sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The light filtering through the trees grew dimmer, casting long, distorted shadows that danced around them. The temperature dropped noticeably, and a chill wind whispered through the leaves. Ben pulled out his phone, checking the time. We need to hurry, he said, his voice tight. It'll be dark soon. The battery indicator blinked ominously, only 18%. He quickened their pace as much as Ms. Ainsworth's injury allowed, scanning the path ahead with increasing urgency. Lily, sensing the shift in mood, stayed close to her father, her small hand tucked tightly in his. The cheerful chatter of the afternoon was replaced by a heavy silence, broken only by the rustling of leaves and Ms. Ainsworth's labored breathing. A wave of self-doubt washed over Ben. Had he made the right call coming out here? He wanted to give Lily a fun day, and now they were stuck in the woods at dusk with an injured woman. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on the immediate task, getting them all back to safety. He had to. Lily was counting on him. A promise of thanks. The trees thinned, sunlight knifing through the branches. Lily, holding tight to Ben's hand, skipped ahead, her small boots crunching on the dry leaves. I see it. I see the car, Daddy. Ben followed, Miss Eleanor leaning heavily on his arm. The sight of the sleek, black town car at the edge of the woods was a welcome relief. A uniformed chauffeur stood beside it, his face etched with concern. He rushed forward as they emerged. Miss Ainsworth. Thank heavens you're safe. He helped her into the car, his movements swift and practiced. Miss Eleanor, settled in the plush leather seat, turned to Ben. Her eyes, though still tired, held a warmth he hadn't seen before. I don't know how to thank you, Mr. Tanner. You and Lily. She reached out and gently squeezed Lily's hand. You were both so brave. Lily beamed, her cheeks flushed with pride. It was fun. Except for the scary owl. Ben chuckled, a wave of relief washing over him. We were just glad we could help. Miss Eleanor's gaze intensified. You did more than just help, Mr. Tanner. You were steadfast. And kind. I won't forget this. She paused, a thoughtful expression on her face. I understand you're a single father? Ben shifted uncomfortably. He didn't want her pity. Yes, ma'am. Lily's mother passed away a few years ago. I see. Miss Eleanor nodded slowly. Well, Mr. Tanner, I am a woman who believes in repaying debts. You and Lily have given me something invaluable, my safety and perhaps even my life. I intend to return the favor. She opened her purse, a small, elegant clutch. Ben held up a hand, stopping her. Please, Miss Ainsworth, there's no need. We didn't do it for any reward. Nonsense, she said, her voice firm but gentle. This isn't about a reward, Mr. Tanner. It's about a promise of thanks. Allow me to express my gratitude in a way that will truly make a difference for you and Lily. I'll be in touch. She met his gaze, her eyes conveying a sincerity that disarmed him. You can count on it. The chauffeur closed the car door, and with a silent glide, the town car disappeared down the dirt road, leaving Ben and Lily standing in the afternoon sun, a mix of bewilderment and hope swirling within them. The air, once thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, now carried a faint trace of expensive perfume, a lingering reminder of the extraordinary encounter. The surprise visit. Dust devils danced in the afternoon sun as a car, sleek and black as a raven's wing, purred to a stop in front of Ben's modest house. It was so out of place on their street of faded paint and patched roofs that Lily gasped, her eyes wide. A chauffeur, impeccable in a charcoal suit, emerged and opened the rear door with a silent flourish. Ms. Eleanor stepped out, her familiar hiking boots replaced with elegant leather heels. Ben, wiping grease from his hands with a rag, frowned. Ms. Eleanor? Is everything all right? She offered a small, almost shy smile. Please call me Eleanor, Ben. And yes, everything is more than all right. In fact, everything is about to get a whole lot better. She gestured towards the house with a gloved hand. May I come in? He hesitated, acutely aware of the worn furniture and the lingering scent of burnt toast. Of course. Please excuse the mess. Inside, Lily hovered by the doorway, her eyes darting between Eleanor and the imposing car outside. Eleanor knelt, bringing herself to Lily's eye level. Hello, Lily. You have a lovely home. Lily, emboldened by the sincerity in Eleanor's voice, spoke softly. Thank you. It's cozy. Eleanor smiled again, then turned to Ben as he cleared a pile of Lily's drawings from the sofa. Ben, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have been upfront about from the beginning. She paused, her gaze steady. My name is Eleanor Ainsworth, and I run Ainsworth Industries. Ben stared, his jaw slack. Ainsworth Industries? The tech company? The one everyone's talking about. Eleanor nodded, a faint blush rising on her cheeks. Yes, that's me. The silence that followed was broken only by the distant drone of a lawnmower. Ben ran a hand through his hair, his mind struggling to process the information. But the hiking, the lost in the woods. A calculated escape, Eleanor said, a hint of steel entering her voice. I needed to disconnect. To see the world without the filters of corporate life. And then I got genuinely lost. Lily, ever perceptive, tugged on Ben's sleeve. She needed help, Daddy. And we helped her. Eleanor's gaze softened as she looked at Lily. Indeed, you did. And I never forget those who helped me. Ben, you saved my life, not just physically, but in a way you can't possibly understand. Now I intend to return the favor. She stood, her posture radiating quiet power. I want to help you, Ben. I want to give Lily the opportunities she deserves. A proper education, a safe home, everything. Dreams come true. The aroma of lilies, thick and sweet, filled Miss Eleanor's sun-drenched drawing room. Lily traced the delicate veins of a petal, her gaze fixed on the opulent bouquet. Ben shifted beside her, the worn fabric of his jacket a stark contrast to the plush velvet sofa. Lily, Miss Eleanor began, her voice a low, steady hum. Your talent is undeniable. It would be a shame to let it wither. She steepled her fingers, her gaze unwavering. I'd like to offer you the opportunity to attend the prestigious Blackwood Academy of Art. Full tuition, of course, covered by me. Lily gasped, her eyes widening. Art school? You mean? Really? A hopeful tremor laced her voice. Ben stared at Miss Eleanor, speechless. He dreamt of this for Lily, but the reality felt impossibly distant, like a star he could admire but never reach. It's a generous offer, Ms. Ainsworth, Ben finally managed, his voice thick with emotion. More generous than I could ever have imagined. But I don't know if we could ever repay you. Ms. Eleanor waved a dismissive hand. Repayment is not necessary, Ben. Seeing Lily flourish is reward enough. Besides, she turned her gaze on him, a subtle shift in her expression. I have another proposition for you. Something that might be mutually beneficial. Ben's brow furrowed. Me? My charitable foundation is growing, Ben. Rapidly. I need someone I can trust, someone with genuine empathy and a head for organization. Someone like you. I'm offering you the position of managing director. Ben stared, his mind struggling to process the enormity of the offer. His current job at the lumber yard was physically demanding and barely paid the bills. This was a complete reversal of fortune. He thought of the long hours, the aching back, the constant worry about providing for Lily. A wave of exhaustion washed over him, followed by an almost overwhelming sense of relief. Lily, sensing his internal struggle, placed her small hand on his arm. Her eyes, bright with unshed tears, were filled with understanding and unwavering support. He met her gaze, a silent conversation passing between them. "Miss Ainsworth," Ben said, his voice stronger now, "I don't know what to say. This is everything. For both of us. I accept. I accept both your offers with all my heart." A ghost of a smile touched Miss Eleanor's lips. "Excellent. Then we have much to discuss. But first," she rose gracefully, "perhaps some celebratory tea? And Lily, I have some art supplies I think you might find interesting." She gestured towards a side room, its door slightly ajar, revealing glimpses of canvases and easels. As Lily followed Miss Eleanor, her face radiant with excitement, Ben remained on the sofa, the weight of his past lifting with each breath. The scent of lilies, once a symbol of unattainable beauty, now felt like a promise. A promise of a future where dreams, impossibly bright, could actually come true. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be without its challenges, but for the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of hope he hadn't dared to imagine. He had a chance, they had a chance, and he wouldn't waste it. Friends in the woods. The art center hummed, a low thrum of polite chatter and the delicate music of crystal meeting crystal. Lily, clutching her juice, stood sentinel beside her artwork, a whimsical collection of watercolor creations. An amethyst-scaled griffin, a bubble-breathing dragon, a unicorn whose mane seemed spun from captured starlight. Across the room, Ben absorbed the scene, a surge of pride inflating his chest. He'd even worn his good shirt, the one miraculously free of holes, and wrestled his unruly hair into a semblance of order. Lily positively glowed, her cheeks painted with excitement. People were engaging with her creations, truly seeing them. Fragments of praise reached him. "The color palette is extraordinary. Such a boundless imagination. She has a genuine gift." Eleanor Ainsworth, remarkably at ease amidst the throng, materialized at his side. Her dress, a study in understated elegance, featured a vibrant emerald hue that amplified the luminescence of her eyes. "Lily is quite talented, Ben," she observed, her voice a soft ripple in the ambient noise. He struggled to swallow past the sudden knot in his throat. "She is," he finally managed, his voice husky. The familiar stab of guilt lingered, a reminder of all he couldn't offer her. Later in the week, the trio traversed the well-worn paths behind Ben's cabin. The air, sharp with autumn's touch, carried the mingled scents of pine needles and damp earth. Sunlight fragmented through the overhead branches, scattering mosaic patterns on the ground. Lily, a sprite of energy, darted ahead, her joyful laughter bouncing off the trees. She pointed out a scarlet-capped toadstool and a family of deer grazing in a sunlit clearing. Eleanor, surprisingly spry, matched her pace, identifying bird songs and reciting the names of the surrounding trees. Ben brought up the rear, a comfortable quiet enveloping them. They paused at a picturesque vista, the valley unfolding before them like a rich brocade woven from gold, scarlet, and ochre. "It's breathtaking," Lily whispered, drinking in the panorama. Eleanor offered a gentle smile. "It is. But beauty transcends the visual, Lily. It resides in what we do." Turning her gaze upon Ben, her expression became earnest. "Kindness, Ben? That is paramount. It is strength personified, not a failing." Ben met her unwavering gaze, understanding taking root. He'd always striven for kindness, to act justly, yet he questioned its efficacy. He worried that being good wasn't enough to ensure Lily's future, to mend their fragmented existence. Observing Lily engrossed in her sketchbook, capturing the landscape before them. Seeing Eleanor, a woman of immense means, choosing to share her time in his modest world. Perhaps, he considered, kindness was enough. Maybe it was the bedrock upon which everything else could be built. A wave of warmth spread through him, banishing the ever-present shadow of self-doubt. In the woods, he had found true companionship, a treasure beyond any monetary value.